Welcome to the Success Playbook by Expertrons and Shine. I'm your host, Jatin Solanki, co-founder of Expertrons, an IIT Bombay alumni, a TEDx speaker, and a serial author. Today, we have a special episode for all the freshers out there who are eager to jumpstart their careers in the competitive job market. Our guest today is Mr. Niloy Das. Niloy is the head of learning and development for FedEx in the Middle East, India, and Africa. With over a decade of experience at FedEx and a career with leadership roles at Sodexo, Hyatt, and Domino's, Niloy has played a key role in developing talent and leading successful L&D initiatives. Niloy is also an XLRI alumni. Today, he is here to share his insights on essential skills for freshers looking to make their mark. Niloy, thanks a lot for accepting our invitation to join this podcast. I'm sure it'll inspire millions of aspirants. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, and thank you very much for having me, Jatin. And it's completely my pleasure to be able to interact with you and sharing my experience with the freshers and adding value into their professional lives.
Amazing. Amazing. So you have dedicated a significant of your career in learning and development. So it's very interesting to see that. Niloy, like just to start with something fun, if your career journey were a song, what would it be and why?
Interesting, actually. There can be many such songs that can define the way my career journey has been. But predominantly, I think Dil Dhadakne Do is the song.
Oh wow.
Basically captures the entire essence of liberated spirit, is spirit of soaring into the skies without being restricted by boundaries
Wow.
and being able to bring yourself out in the open and be out there discovering yourself and going through a journey that is all of self-discovery, discovery of others, and discovery of the world, right? So it's kind of no holds barred, no boundaries, a journey that's extremely fulfilling, while it also kind of gives you a greater perspective of the world.
It's
So I kind of like to define my career journey that way.
you resonate with that a lot. Yeah, that's amazing. Moving on, I would like to ask you about your L&D career. What drew you to this field? Why do you think it's so important for freshers today? How has kind of L&D evolved, and what would you suggest them while they're studying?
I think it always starts from understanding who you are as an individual. What are your core strengths? What are your innate strengths? What motivates you? What inspires you? What do you like to do? And then apply that to the context of an organization in your career. Number one. Number two, if people are more interested in the areas of learning and stuff, I think what's really important is to understand that learning is not restricted to a function, which means you can't define yourself as belong to the learning function. There's nothing like a belong to the learning function, right? I think it is one of the functions that I like to believe that it's an organizational function. That means it encompasses the entire organization and does not restrict yourself to the function. You might be doing that as part of your job description, but at the end of the day, in today's world, in an organization, to be able to offer learning and get people to learn to be able to do their job well is everyone's responsibility. What specifically a learning professional brings to the table is more like an architect. It's a mix of an architect, mix of a salesperson, mix of a marketing person, mix of people person, because we kind of it's not just about picking up something from the shelf and going and delivering something, right? We exist we exist to help the organization and partner the organization in solving problems. So it starts from there. An organization exists to solve a problem. Therefore, I believe a learning professional exists to help the organization solve a problem. Therefore, it starts by identifying the problems within an organization. Where does it exist? And then around those problems, to cut the long story short, you understand what are the root causes of those problems, and therefore you build solutions for the organization. The solution may not be restricted to only a classroom training driven. The solution can be multifold. And Jatin, you understand that the solution is not restricted to a classroom workshop. It can be self-learning, and the resources are all around people. So it's not about what people learn. It's about how people learn. People learn how to be and not about what to do, right? So that's important. So from a learning perspective, I think those who aspire to be that should be able to discover their penchant for not being restricted to a particular space. Like, for example, sales and you're selling, you're marketing, right? IT, you're working on software. But this one breaks the realms. You work with organizations and you got to have an idea about what the organization exists for, and therefore you align your own purpose towards that existence and build solutions to problems. And it's an ongoing journey, right? To be able to get people to move forward.
This is
So Yeah.
So beautifully put, Niloy. I think any fresher should want to kind of look inside rather than outside, figure out who they are.
Let me tell you, being a trainer is not about being a learning professional. Being able to deliver a workshop is not about being a learning professional.
Right.
It's much, much, much beyond that.
No, amazing. I think this is very nicely put, and I'm sure, I mean, this formula would kind of help a lot of fresher to kind of discover themselves and then kind of discover do they have a path
Absolutely.
in
Starts
that.
from there.
Amazing. So, with your work on global integration and cultural projects, how important do you think cultural adaptability is for freshers in today's global job market?
Huge, huge. I couldn't stress any more on that because the world is a village today, right? There are no more boundaries
Right.
between countries and regions and people as such. One of the first, uh, if there is three qualities that I'd like people to have that can build all of these around, number one is learning agility. Learning agility is about how quickly you learn, and it's about learning anything, learning about different cultures, learning about the work that you're doing, learning about others' work they're doing, learning about how organizations operate. One is learning agility. And so it's your flexibility and your hunger and your curiosity to learn. The next one is adaptability. Okay. EQ, IQ used to be the number one aspect. After that came EQ. EQ went to number one. IQ is always number two. Now, if you actually have to take a stock, AQ is number one, adaptability quotient. Okay, adaptability quotient and your emotional quotient. And after that comes intelligent quotient.
Uh,
Okay, in that order in organizations that play out. So adaptability is number one. Once you have that in you, adaptability, emotional intelligence, and learning agility, you don't need much effort to put in.
That's amazing. I think you've summarized it in a very interesting format. So your role evolved from being a manager to moving towards L&D, and that it
Yeah.
naturally came to you is what kind of happened in your case.
So that was a differentiator that I brought to the table from not sticking to my role and task, but then
Right.
making a difference to the larger ecosystem. Then they saw the potential that I could bring to the larger organization.
Wow.
So from a smaller cluster unit, I was moved to a regional role from a learning standpoint.
Interesting. That's so amazing. And like, why do you think it's important for freshers today, just the L&D part of it? And I'm sure you evolved into this L&D as a role. Like for freshers today who are in their 20s, who are starting their careers and are looking to build a career and are considering L&D as a function.
Sure. Again, it's a journey and it's a continuous journey. It just doesn't happen on one day. Leadership skills are not developed by sitting in a workshop as well. And we also talk about leaders are born and not made, right? So all those are myth. Leadership can be learned. Leadership can be done by anyone willing to be that leader. I'd say it starts from self-leadership, which means how well are you able to lead yourself? Able to do that, how well do you know yourself? So once you know yourself, you know the areas about yourself which your triggers and your motivations, inspirations, etc. And therefore, you know you'll be in a position that you begin to lead yourself to the right directions to be able to move towards the path that you want to follow.
Right.
Right? Only when you learn to lead yourself will you have the conviction, the attributes, and the knowledge and the science that is required to lead others.
Right.
Right? So it starts from there. So leading others is not about command and control. Command and control finished in the past decade. There's
Right.
no more command and control happening as a leader. Leadership is all about making believe by themselves, which otherwise without you they would not have done.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's enabling people to see potential of themselves, which they otherwise wouldn't have seen. So
Wow.
leadership is not about command and control. Leadership is not about carrot and stick.
Right.
Leadership is everything but all these. Leadership is about working for your team. Leadership is about leading your team. There are two types of leadership, leading from the front, leading from behind. So the moment you be in a leadership role or a leadership position or a leadership space, life stops being about you.
Right.
Life is about, it's all about others. So if it's almost about not dedicating, those are profound words. It's also about, being there for others. I say that I work for my team,
Right.
right? So it's that way. So you'll hear many jargon and terms like servant leadership and all of that, but leadership is, at the end of the day, leadership is all about helping people be at a particular space
Wow.
without you being, which otherwise they wouldn't have done, right? So know yourself to begin with. Only after that, you can't become a leader overnight. Once you've known yourself, once you have known how to lead yourself, only then you learn how to lead others.
Right. Right. No, that's great. Nicely put. And like in terms of what advice would you have for freshers on how to communicate, collaborate in diverse, multi-regional teams? Something, of course, you have managed extensively, but do you remember some experiences which helped you kind of develop these so that the freshers can kind of focus on doing things to kind of effectively communicate?
Of course, I think one of the biggest advantage that freshers have today, which of course we did not have, is the world has opened up, right? Social media and the kind of exposure up, and social media and all sorts of media and everything else that are providing our freshers the exposure today, to exposure to the world, to world cultures, to belief systems, to the socio-political environment, socio-economical environment, geopolitical environment. They're getting to know different perspectives, different world order. I mean, the information, it's information overload in a way. But what's really helping our freshers is giving them the exposure. They're not isolated in a particular geography and stuck to that geography, right? So I think all the new age people who are moving into their early careers should really be able to leverage the best out of this exposure. Number one. uh, number two thing is about to believe yourself, to look at yourself as a world citizen and not to restrict yourself to a particular area, geography, country, or whatnot. Look at yourself as a global citizen, right? When you look at yourself as a global citizen, automatically your perspective about citizenship or being part of a community will gather much more larger perspective, will be in the context of a larger perspective. You not restrict yourself that I'm this and I'm that. So look at yourself as in a much larger perspective with the context of the world to
Right.
begin with. What will play a very important role in adapting people from different cultures, different regions, and everything else is to again being open-minded. Something that's going to take those people a long way is from a to understand the application connotation of DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion,
Right.
and having a DEI mindset, which means, again, with DEI mindset, also one of the factors that plays a big role in restricting us from opening up to the larger possibilities is what is called as unconscious bias, right? Again, so it's again, I said everything comes down to self awareness. So understand the biases that you play out that plays out in a life. When you see a people, is there a bias playing out in your mind that XYZ may be this and that and may be well qualified, may not be well qualified, may be well placed, may not be well placed? Or do you see a person as a human being and then show the curiosity to discover? So I think this particular aspect of understanding the term unconscious bias and to understand how does it play out in our lives, and once we have understood that, we will our approach to life, our approach to human beings, our approach to people across the world will become very different. You'll be more open to adapting to cultures, adapting to different thought process, being curious about differential schools of thought,
Right.
and also being open to multicultural elements of an organization.
No, I think this is really kind of relevant for the freshers of today. So I'm sure they'll learn to adapt in a certain way. So great.
Yeah.
Uh, so your career shows a strong commitment to continuous learning and upskilling. How crucial is it for freshers to adopt a mindset of lifelong learning in today's world? And also, like at Expertrons, we emphasize on importance of continuous education through our different programs, like our general management program and human resource with EICT Academy, IIT Guwahati. How do you see like programs like that benefiting freshers and professionals to stay ahead in their careers?
Yeah, I think it is one of the most crucial aspects of staying ahead in the curve in terms of continuous learning and continuous education. Like we discussed earlier, the business landscape is changing. The business landscape is changing, which means any organization, any large organization today, they are in the cusp of change. Organizations are unrecognizable every 3 to 5 years. They generally, their characters have changed, their approach, their thinking, values, everything is changing and change is in a pretty fast pace,
Right.
right? Therefore, this is how I look at. So what there's, I'm talking about the term learning organizations, right? Learning organizations are those to be able to stay ahead of the curve, are continuously learning and adapting to the new world order and to the new world demands
Right.
and rising up to the occasion to thrive in the marketplace.
Right.
Same goes for individuals. Same goes for individuals. Unless individuals pick up the nuances of the future readiness requirements and continue to learn, make themselves as learning professionals like learning organizations, that's only the time that they will stay ahead of the curve and will stay with the pace of their organizations and the world, right? Otherwise, every time you develop a new skill, it becomes redundant in no time. Unless you keep up with it, you'll fall back. So, yeah, continuous learning, continuous education is extremely, extremely important. I think that's one of the foremost approach that any early professional career must have.
True. No, amazing. Nicely put, Niloy. I think the world is changing really fast, and kind of with that, it is important for everyone to upskill. Yeah, that's great. From your experience across various top companies, what are some of the common challenges freshers face when they are starting their careers? And I'm sure you would have faced a lot of them
Yes.
yourself. So maybe some examples and how do they kind of look at overcoming that?
Sure. At the risk of sounding cliched, we all know that there is a huge difference between academics and education. Academics is all about how well have you gone through your academic rigor, you have scored certain marks, and you have achieved a degree from the best of institutions.
Right.
The moment of truth hits when you walk into an organization, or even for that matter, move into the business world to start something on your own or to
Right.
work in an organization, because you will soon realize what you studied in your books versus what's going on in the organization are vastly different.
Right.
They're not, I mean, they're not different in that sense. They're like the way things are being done versus the way it's written in the books are very different, right? So when you're in the learning space within your academic structure, when people are in the learning space in the academic structure, it's all about what? It's all about what they're studying about and the aspects that they're learning of. But the moment you move into an organization, it all becomes about how. So it's more important how you think, someone who knows nothing, and start your education journey from there. Your academic knowledge is going to be your backbone in particular.
I'm sure a lot of freshers who are starting their careers would be facing the same thing, and this is
Yeah.
of course very common in your early days. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean this is very interesting. So Niloy, with your vast experience, what trends do you see shaping the future of work, especially for freshers who are entering the job market? And how can freshers adopt themselves for these trends and be a valuable asset to their organizations?
Sure. I think the future of work is continuously changing. So, number one, the first quality that people need to develop in them, again from an education standpoint and not from an academic standpoint, is to be able to acknowledge to be able to build resilience for change. To be able to build resilience for change, that is the first and foremost stuff. To know that in any organization they go to work for, or even in a business landscape, if they start their own business and stuff, change is the order of the day, right? And therefore, to build the resilience within them to accept change and not to be bogged down by change events, and to be able to move forward, if required, step back and take a leap forward, right? So people have to be extremely flexible and adaptable in the mindset, number one. Number two, people should not restrict themselves to a particular area. That you remember in earlier days, this happened much more in the earlier days, probably
Right.
during our parents and all that. Like I'm a chemical man, right? I'm a chemical person. I'm a
Right.
fertilizer person. I'm an steel person. So they kind of restricted them to a particular industry, particular
Right.
product line,
Right.
and stuff like that. That no
And
more
they used
works.
to do that for years and years.
They used to do the same thing years year after year.
Right.
So,
Right.
so don't restrict yourself. Build yourself as a problem solver.
Right.
Build yourself as a problem solver and learn to understand the context before you hit the content directly. What I really mean is understanding the context of the ecosystem that you're in will help you to kind of build the content within yourself to be able to work within that ecosystem.
Right.
So you make yourself industry agnostic, make
Right.
yourself function agnostic, be
Right.
ready, broaden your mindset, broaden your skill set, broaden your knowledge set, and broaden your sense of intelligence, and more importantly, broaden your sense of emotional intelligence.
Right.
People in today's world are hired for their IQ but fired for their EQ.
Interest. Yeah.
One of the factors that's going to take you long distance is your EQ, and to be able to apply yourself to various contexts. Your
Wow.
learning will always be a journey of learning, unlearning, learning, unlearning, relearning,
True.
right? So you can't ever sit with a skill set and say, this is my wealth and this is what I'm going to apply lifelong. Your life, those will become redundant, but your emotional intelligence
Right.
skill, your learning agility skill,
Right.
your adaptability skills will never go redundant. These will
Absolutely.
help you in long ways. So as much as you can keep building your skill set, but continue to broaden your mindset very, very clearly,
Wow.
going
Wow.
to take you a long way.
Wow. No, this is really helpful for someone who is starting their career, and kind of for someone to understand that these things will matter. And actually, like, people are going to change 5 to 7 careers in their
Yeah,
lifetime. And that's what is happening with all of us. All of us have
yeah,
seen our fair share of change from across companies, across functions, and hence agility and adaptability is really, really critical for today's
yeah,
generation,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is very different from what our parents' generation used to
Absolutely.
do. Yeah.
What's interesting is, 5 years later, we do not know the kind of industries and organization
True.
that will exist, and what kind of skill sets will those organizations need. We have no clue today.
True. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So our professional lives and the professional ecosystem itself has become so agile
Right.
that you have to all the time invent and reinvent yourself and unlearn and relearn yourself, and nothing is cast in stone anymore,
True.
except for the mindset that you bring to the table and your
True.
willingness that you bring to the table.
True. True. No, that's absolutely true, Niloy, and those actually play a really crucial
True.
role. So, Niloy, I think now we can go for a quick rapid fire round, and this is something interesting and fun. So, do you think one should always ask questions or wait for someone to guide them in their career journeys?
Always ask questions, as many as they want, as frequently as they should.
Wonderful. Do you think one should focus on one skill deeply, or they should try to learn everything at once?
Focus on one skill deeply.
Uh, Interesting. And do you think one should follow their passion blindly, or like they should balance passion with practicality?
Balance passion with practicality very
Wow.
clearly.
If you were this 20-year someone today, what would you advise yourself, having seen such a long career span?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there can be hundreds of stuff, but one thing that I firmly believe is, the marketplace is crowded, the world is crowded, right? You you see the Indian Idol stuff, right? Indian Idol, or
Yeah.
America
America.
talent, or India gets talent and stuff like that. When the show auditions on the TV, outside the gate, you see the crowd, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, on the stage, after a series, you see only 8, 10 people standing there.
Right.
So, one advice, I can't say advice, but one recommendation for people to follow should be craft your own signature.
Right.
It's something that I've always believed in. Craft your own signature. Signature is always unique, right, to each individual. Craft your own signature, discover your own uniqueness, and market yourself based on those set of uniqueness and strengths that you bring to the table, for which, again, you got to know what your strengths are. You got to know, play by your strengths more than you play by your weaknesses. Your areas of weaknesses is only so much that you can do. You can't negate them totally, but if you continue to sharpen your strengths and play by your strengths,
Right.
you will enjoy what you're doing.
No, this is really nicely put, Niloy, and I'm sure a lot of us, when we are starting our career, we don't see this line outside, and
Yeah,
how you see in a talent show. But
yeah,
there is a line outside. There is actually a lot of people applying for the same role you're applying. A lot of people
correct.
trying to strive, trying to get the same promotion you're aspiring
Yeah,
to get. And
yeah,
just the mental picture of people standing outside the line kind of gave me a clear vision of like how you would kind of stand out, how you would actually be unique, how you
yeah,
would would want to kind of have your own signature to it. So really amazing advice on this one. Like that, then there will be a lot of people listening to this podcast, but what do you do with this knowledge? How do you kind of stand out is what will matter
Sure,
for you to go long in your career. So
absolutely.
thank you, Niloy, for joining us today and offering such great advice.
Wonderful platform curated and created here. I think that's going to make a huge lot of difference to the people who are starting off in their early career, and even for the people who are in the career journey already.
Well, thanks, Niloy. This was, I mean, really glad to kind of have you on the platform, and you're giving back to the society. So really good to kind of see that coming from the likes of you. People will surely aspire, and I'm sure your LinkedIn must be full with a lot of requests, a lot of people asking questions. But I mean, this will surely kind of pass the knowledge to them, which will help them in their career journey. And at Expertrons, we are at that in on that mission to kind of inspire millions of aspirants who are out there.
Very good.
And thanks. As a platform, Expertrons has more than 7,000 experts who are sharing their career experience on the platform,
Lovely.
and we keep doing that day by day. We hope all of you listening found this episode of the Success Playbook by Expertrons and Shine helpful. If you want more insights on how to jumpstart your career, make sure to subscribe, leave us a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep inspiring success.